Welcome to the Industry Titans channel. Today, we will talk about one of the most recognizable and famous automotive empires, Ferrari. Enzo Anselmo Ferrari came into the world under rather mysterious circumstances, as no one exactly knows when he was born. Officially, Enzo Ferrari's date of birth is considered to be February 20th, 1898, although according to Enzo himself, he was born in Medina 2 days earlier, on the 18th. The reason for this discrepancy is said to be a heavy snowfall that prevented his parents from timely reaching the town hall to register the newborn. At that time, Ferrari's father owned a workshop that repaired locomotives, which also served as the residence for the Ferrari family. Enzo, along with his parents and his brother Alfredino, lived right above the repair workshop. In his autobiographical book, My Terrible Joys, Ferrari writes that his entire childhood passed to the sound of hammers, under which he and his family woke up and went to sleep. It was there that Enzo became acquainted with metal and learned to work with it. However, despite this, young Enzo did not dream of a career as a locomotive master. He desired a beautiful life full of bright colors, perhaps why he envisioned himself as an opera tenor or a popular sports-oriented journalist. As for the first dream, he had to part with it immediately due to a complete lack of hearing and voice. Enzo's singing was loud but very off-key. As for the second dream and self-realization, luck was on his side. The most outstanding event in his journalism career was the publication of a report on a football match, which was published in Italy's leading sports publication. Perhaps this event pushed Enzo towards the realization of his third dream to become a racing driver. The little boy Ferrari first saw car races at the age of 10 in the city of Bologna, after which he became obsessed with them. Speeding racing cars, the admiration of spectators, and the exciting smell of gasoline mixed with the taste of victory intoxicated Enzo, and he truly fell in love with motorsports. His idols became Felice Nazzaro and Vincenzo Lancia. However, turning such a dream into reality for a boy from a simple Italian family, not distinguished by wealth, was very challenging. Although Ferrari's father shared his son's enthusiasm, he wanted a different destiny for his child. He believed that Enzo was born to become an engineer. Enzo did not like to study, and why would a future racer need academic education? Soon, fate would relieve the young man of the monotony of school due to his father's death from pneumonia and the passing of his brother. During those times, World War I was in full swing. When Enzo Ferrari reached the conscription age, he was called into the army, where he became a mountain trooper, which would later become the first step towards his future fame and career. The soldier Ferrari's dream was partially realized, as in the army, he was assigned to oversee and care for transportation, shoeing mules, and maintaining the regimental wagons. After demobilization, young Ferrari already knew what he would do in the future, and most importantly, what mattered most in his life: cars. Having no formal education, with only a recommendation letter signed by the unit commander, in the winter of 1918, Enzo Ferrari went to Turin to seek employment at the Fiat factory. However, upon arrival, the young man's dream was shattered after visiting the office of engineer Diego Soria, who was handling personnel matters at the time. The response was polite but quite hurtful for Ferrari. Diego said something like, "The Fiat company is not a place for demobilized individuals. We cannot hire just anyone." Like an abandoned dog, Enzo walked out into the street, where a cold winter was in full swing. Sitting on a bench in Valentino Park, he felt lonely and unwanted. There was no one in the world who could support him and offer advice. Both his brother and father, unfortunately, had left this world. However, the young former soldier found the strength to pull himself together and find a purpose. He got a job as a test driver in Turin, and later secured a similar position in Milan, working for the relatively unknown company Costruzioni Meccaniche Nazionali. Enzo Ferrari demonstrated his abilities positively, allowing him to shed the test label from his job title and assume the role of a full-fledged racer, fulfilling the dream he had cherished. Enzo Ferrari's sports debut took place in 1919 at the Parma-Berceto track, and he secured his first, though not prize-winning, honorable ninth place at the Targa Florio. Ferrari recalls this event as follows: "After my car, trailing behind two others, approached Campo Felice, the road was blocked by 3 carabinieri. When asked what the matter was, they replied that we needed to wait until Mr. President finished his speech. A crowd was already visible around the corner, listening to Vittorio Emanuele Orlando's speech. We futilely tried to protest, but the speech seemed never-ending. Eventually, we were granted permission to continue the race and took our place at the tail of the presidential procession, trailing behind it for several miles. To our surprise, no one was waiting for us at the finish line. All the spectators and timekeepers had left for Palermo on the last train. A carabinieri, armed with an alarm clock, recorded our time, rounding it to the nearest minute. In 1920, Ferrari left Costruzioni Meccaniche Nazionali and joined Alfa Romeo. The dream of becoming a real racer had been realized, but now another dream took its place. Enzo now dreamt of having his team, composed exclusively of Italian racers. Like all of Enzo's dreams, this one also came true in 1929 when a new team emerged in Modena, Scuderia Ferrari, which translates from Italian as Ferrari Stable or Ferrari Racing Team. The term stable pays homage to the cavalry units of the military, a nod to Enzo Ferrari's past interest in successful army steeds. The new team still operated under the auspices of Alfa Romeo, and its founder took on the role of a playing coach. Enzo Ferrari cited family circumstances as the reason for ending his racing career, as he got married and became a father to his son Alfredo 2 years later. Ferrari competed in races until 1932, starting 47 times and achieving 13 victories. According to statistics, Enzo is not easily categorized as a legendary racer with an outstanding record. The racer's passion was more for the cars themselves than the races, and he dreamed of building his own. Becoming a constructor with an unfinished secondary education seemed impossible, but the lack of knowledge was compensated by oratory skills and the ability to gather exceptional engineers around him. The first person to join Enzo Ferrari's ranks was the constructor of Fiat Vittorio Geno, who created the globally renowned racing model Alfa Romeo P2, which repeatedly claimed podium finishes on European tracks. The origin of the famous Ferrari emblem remains unknown, much like many aspects of Enzo's life. The founder of the stable mentioned the following about it: "I borrowed the prancing horse for the Ferrari company emblem from Francesco Baracca, the heroically fallen Italian pilot, who was depicted on the fuselage of his fighter." After several years of the Scuderia's existence, I had the opportunity to meet the father of the deceased pilot, Enrico Baracca. Sometime later, I also met Francesco Baracca's mother, and during a conversation with her, she asked me if I had a car and why it didn't have a memorable symbol. It was then that I was suggested to adorn my car with the emblem featuring a prancing horse. "It will bring you luck," she said, and I agreed. The emblem was slightly modified. Enzo Ferrari placed the prancing horse on a triangular-shaped golden shield, the color of the Modena coat of arms. In the lower part were the letters SF, and in the upper part, the flag of Italy. The first car with the horse logo appeared in 1932. After the war, it became rectangular, and below it, a stylized inscription, Ferrari, adorned it. Over the decades, the Ferrari emblem became well known worldwide and externally hardly changed. In 1939, after buying land near Maranello, Enzo started the construction of his own Autoavia Costruzione factory, which would specialize not only in producing cars but also aircraft engines. In 1940, Ferrari registered his company, but at that time, the war was underway, and sports cars were of least interest to humanity. In 1944, a tragedy occurred. The factory was bombed and almost completely destroyed. It took 2 years to rebuild, and by 1946, production was fully restored. As mentioned earlier, Enzo's ability to attract and interest intriguing individuals was a significant asset. After the war, Giacchino Colombo from Alfa Romeo joined the Ferrari squad, considered one of the most talented engineers at the time. The first car rolled off the assembly line in 1947, named Ferrari 125. In the same year, despite inadequate testing and the imperfections of his creation, Enzo entered 2 cars in a race in Piacenza. The drivers for the new cars were supposed to be racers Farina and Franco Cortese, chosen by Ferrari himself. However, the plan did not come to fruition as Farina had an accident during test runs, and Franco did not get far from the start. This infuriated Enzo. After the failure, the boss decided to change the drivers, and on May 16, 1948, Russian immigrant Igor Trubetskoy took the wheel of the sports car and also crashed it at the Monaco Grand Prix, leading him to leave the team. Ferrari was a quite demanding and stubborn leader, and parting with each of the pilots who brought him fame was accompanied by a loud scandal. Niki Lauda, Phil Hill, and Jody Scheckter all worked for Ferrari and left with significant disputes. This was because Enzo could not forgive people for their mistakes and could not tolerate the concept of the human factor. He loved his cars like his own children, stating, "My friends are cars, only to them can I trust." Jackie Ickx, a famous driver who also raced under the Ferrari brand, said of his boss, "The most important thing for Enzo is the victory of one of his cars, and who sits behind the wheel and how he feels practically did not interest him." Ferrari's main goal was to create the fastest car in the world at all costs. This slogan was confirmed by the deaths of 2 drivers, Musso in 1958 and Reims and Collins at the Nürburgring. However, Ferrari did not even think about stopping and was ready to go to great lengths. Enzo Ferrari was uncompromising and stubborn, hiring people who were like himself. He sought individuals who were patriots of his company, and dynasties working at the company today passed down their experience from generation to generation. In 1956, Italian President Giovanni Granchi asked Enzo, "Is it true that you spend days and nights in your workshops?" To which Ferrari replied, "When you work without rest, you don't think about death." However, this did not mean that death did not think about you. Time could not be turned back. After some time, his beloved son Alfredo passed away due to chronic nephritis. Losing his son Dino, Ferrari became reclusive, rarely appearing at events, and only watched races on TV. One day, Ferruccio Lamborghini came to the Ferrari company and wanted to discuss the shortcomings of Enzo's cars. However, the secretary refused to let him in, stating that the boss had no time to talk to every passerby. After that, Lamborghini decided to outshine Ferrari and designed a more perfect and faster supercar. In the style of Enzo, he lured the most outstanding qualified specialists from the Ferrari company, but he still could not succeed in outperforming him. The history of Ferrari is full of mysteries and myths, ups and downs. Still, the fact that the name of this company has become a symbol of Italy and, above all, the town of Maranello, is undisputed. Ferrari is part of the great history of Italy, just like high fashion, spaghetti, and carnival. Despite the superfast cars created by the team under Enzo Ferrari's leadership, he could not escape death. On the 90th year of his life, on August 14, 1988, humanity lost a great master, Enzo Ferrari. On the day of Enzo's death, The factory did not stop but continued to work. This was Enzo's will. A few weeks after Ferrari's death, Gerhard Berger won the Italian Grand Prix in Monza driving a Ferrari. In honor of the memory of the great founder of the Ferrari company, in 2002, the factory released a model called Ferrari Enzo. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new and interesting information about automotive brands.